Welcome back to Godless and Grounded. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that much of what you've been told your entire life about the universe, about life, about death, about purpose, was based not on evidence, but on ancient beliefs passed down for centuries, unquestioned, unchallenged, and often unproven. That realization can be uncomfortable, but it's also liberating. Because the moment you begin to question, you begin to understand. And when you look closely at the philosophy behind religion, not with hostility, but with honest inquiry, what you'll often find is not profound truth, but a delusional way of thinking disguised as wisdom. The philosophy of religion begins with a fundamental assumption that there is a supernatural being or force behind everything we see. That's not a conclusion reached through observation or testing, it's a starting point. It's taken as a given, and everything else is built upon it. But when we examine this foundational claim, it quickly falls apart. There's no physical evidence for a god or gods. We don't see gods interacting with nature. We don't see divine fingerprints on DNA, galaxies, or gravity. What we do see is a universe that behaves according to natural laws, and a long history of humans trying to make sense of it without understanding how it really works. Think about this. Thousands of years ago, people believed that lightning was the anger of gods. Earthquakes were punishment for sin. Disease was a curse. Why? Because they didn't have the science to explain natural phenomena. So they used stories, and those stories evolved into religions. Today we know what causes lightning, what shifts tectonic plates, what spreads viruses. But the old stories stayed. Even though the explanations have been disproven, the religious mindset hasn't caught up. That's the problem. Religion didn't start from truth. It started from fear, ignorance, and the need for control. But let's talk about how this delusional thinking continues today. Take prayer, for example. Billions of people pray daily. They ask for help, for healing, for answers. Yet, countless studies have shown that prayer has no measurable effect. People who are prayed for don't recover faster than those who aren't. Tragedies still strike believers and non-believers alike. Children still die, wars still happen, and diseases still spread, no matter how many prayers are offered. If prayer worked the way religion claims, we'd see real results, but we don't. Still, many people convince themselves that it must work, just in mysterious ways we can't understand. That's not logic, that's delusion. And then there's the idea that religious texts hold divine truth. Let's be honest. These texts are full of contradictions, outdated moral codes, and stories that don't align with reality. The earth created in 6 days, humans made from dust or ribs, talking snakes, global floods. These aren't metaphors in many faiths, they're taught as literal history. But geology, archaeology, biology, and cosmology all tell us otherwise. The Earth is billions of years old. Species evolved over time through natural selection. There is no evidence of a worldwide flood or of all humans descending from a single couple. Yet many people cling to these stories, not because of proof, but because of tradition and belief. One of the most troubling aspects of religious philosophy is how it deals with morality. Religion often claims to be the source of our sense of right and wrong. But if you actually read religious laws and teachings, you'll find rules that today we consider cruel, absurd, or deeply unjust. Slavery is permitted. Women are treated as property. Violence is condoned in the name of faith. These ideas come not from a higher wisdom, but from ancient patriarchal societies. And while many modern believers ignore or reinterpret these parts, the fact remains. They're still there, written in supposedly sacred texts. Morality and truth comes not from religion, but from our shared human experience, our empathy, our ability to suffer, our desire to live in peace. Let's look at another area, eternal judgment. The concept of hell is perhaps one of the most psychologically abusive ideas ever invented. The idea that a loving God would condemn someone to eternal torment for disbelief or for being born in the wrong religion or country is not justice. It's not wisdom. It's control. It's fear-mongering. Imagine a parent telling their child, "Love me, or I'll torture you forever." Would we call that love? Of course not. Yet this is the framework many religions use. It's not just delusional, it's manipulative. Religious philosophy also promotes a kind of mental laziness. Instead of encouraging people to ask hard questions, it often tells them to just have faith. But faith is believing without evidence. It's the opposite of critical thinking. In science, doubt is a virtue. It leads to testing, learning, discovery. In religion, doubt is often a sin. That's a dangerous mindset. It shuts down curiosity and fosters blind obedience. And that's why religion can persist even when its claims are shown to be false, because it discourages questioning. Now consider how many religions exist. Thousands, all claiming to have the truth, all contradicting one another. They can't all be right. In fact, they're mostly wrong, except maybe one, if any. But statistically, the odds that you happen to be born into the one true religion are tiny. If you were born in India, you're likely Hindu. In Saudi Arabia, Muslim. In Italy, Catholic. Belief is more about geography than truth. That's a massive red flag. If the truth were so obvious and divine, it wouldn't depend on your birthplace. Another illusion is the idea that religion gives life meaning. But meaning is not something that needs to be given from above. It's something we create. When people say, "Without God, life has no meaning," what they're really saying is, "I can't imagine meaning without someone telling me what it is." But look around. People find purpose in love, in creativity, in helping others, in exploring the world. Meaning doesn't have to be eternal to be real. A song doesn't last forever, but it can still be beautiful. A moment doesn't last forever, but it can still be powerful. Life is meaningful because we make it so, not because a God says so. Let's also talk about how religion handles evidence. When science presents evidence, it invites scrutiny, peer review, debate, testing. If it's wrong, it gets corrected. But when religion presents its claims, it demands belief, often without proof. And if you challenge those claims, you're called arrogant, sinful, or lost. That's not philosophy. That's dogma. A true philosophy should evolve with new knowledge, but religion resists change. It clings to old texts, even when they're wrong. That's not a sign of truth. It's a sign of fear. Fear of being proven false. And yet, despite all this, religion still holds immense power. Why? Because it's deeply woven into identity, culture, family, and community. People are taught from birth to believe. Questioning it can feel like betrayal. That's why it's so difficult to walk away. But that difficulty doesn't make religion true. It just makes it powerful. And power, especially unquestioned power, is dangerous. In the end, the delusional philosophy of religion survives not because it offers truth, but because it offers comfort. It promises answers to life's hardest questions. Why are we here? What happens when we die? Why do we suffer? These are real painful questions, and religion gives simple answers, but simple doesn't mean correct. Sometimes the truth is harder, more complex, less comforting. But it's also more honest, and in the long run, truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is better than comforting delusion. So if you're someone who has begun to question, who feels like the pieces no longer fit together, know this: you're not alone, and you're not lost. You're thinking, you're growing, you're freeing yourself from a mindset that depends on belief without evidence, obedience without question, and meaning without understanding. You are capable of finding purpose, morality, and wonder without ancient myths, without invisible gods, and without fear of eternal punishment. You can live a full, rich, meaningful life grounded in reality, driven by reason, and guided by compassion. That's not delusion, that's freedom.